Hello, everyone. Satsanga, the astrologer. Today, I will talk about the full moon in Aries, October 1st, 2020. So, I will let you know how you can contact me if you like these videos. Don't hesitate to letting me know. Make a comment, subscribe to my channel, and also you can share my videos with family, friends. You don't need to share the videos publicly. You can share them privately by email or WhatsApp or in a private group if you don't want to share them publicly. I also accept donations. So now I will change the screen and I will show you the chart for this lunation, which is the full moon in Aries. Here is the chart is cast for, let me change this. I will do natural houses. Okay, so Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. And here we have the moon at 9 degrees of Aries and the sun at 9 degrees of Libra, because every full moon is an opposition between the sun and the moon, right? And here we see both, they are conjunct another cosmic body. In this case, the sun is conjunct trans-Neptune planet, which is MakeMake. And it was recently discovered in the, I will talk about it. And the moon is conjunct Chiron, which is an asteroid, planetoid, dwarf planet, and comet. So it's been, it's had several denominations by astronomers. But anyways, I will also explain the meaning of that. First of all, the chart has 12 points of cardinal energy. So it is a very challenging energy, and what it means is that there is the impulse for lots of change. There's 7 points of fire, fire signs that are very spirited, very impulsive, and they're also very personal and very strong. There's a lot of ego energy and fire, right? Fire is the impetus of life. So just from the start, you see a lot of fire and cardinal, so there is this impulse for change and radical change, which is what we have seen in the last few months, right? And I would say since the beginning of the year, in fact. So, but now we have come to a series of lunations during the months of September, October, November, that will activate the cardinal signs, which is Libra, Aries, and Capricorn, right? So we have the stellium in Capricorn still there and progressing very slowly. I wrote, as I write daily astro transits, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram or MeWe or Tumblr, you probably have read about my insights regarding this stellium in Capricorn. The latest was Jupiter that turned direct, and Saturn will turn direct September 29, right? A couple of days before this lunation, right? This full moon. And that's very significant because as a planet changes direction, and in this case, Saturn is represents restrictions, boundaries, limitations, and since the month of May, when it went retrograde, the regulations relaxed a little bit, and we've seen the consequences of that. And now that it's turning direct, then we can expect more restrictions and regulations and limits, especially coming from governmental institutions and such. So that's the background that has been there since the beginning of the year, as I said. So the full moon in Aries is ruled by Mars, which is in the same sign. And significantly, it is retrograde, what it does is that our impulsive energy is bottled up, and it's probably we are constrained by our own energy, and we go inside instead of acting it out. So we are kind of, you know, those cults that are very energetic because they are so young, and they and when it is restrained or in the quarters, they cannot go out and run, and so it's we need to, as they said, hold. We are holding our horses, figuratively. Anyways. But not only that, it is conjunct Eris, which is the goddess of discord. So this full moon is really a full moon of challenge and relationship aches. I titled this video because every time the sun and the moon is opposing, there usually is the energy is manifested coming from something else or someone else. Generally, it's someone else, especially if you are in a relationship or you live with people in general. So this is what is coming with this full moon. It is a full moon of this bottled up energy of resentment, probably. Eris was the goddess that was not invited to the feast of the gods. So she came very resentful and with a golden apple, and she threw it on the table and saying to the fairest, right? So there could be this hint of resentment and aggression that is not expressed in this full moon. But the most important, because the moon is conjunct Chiron, is that this is painful, right? There is an ache and pain and suffering that is accompanying this repressed anger. and it's because probably we are not able to express it. We are, and Chiron is retrograde, which means that we are more introspective about our woundedness and about the healing process. Probably you have been reconsidering your woundedness and the process of your healing. So I wrote a long time ago an article in my blog. It's called Chiron, what is it? I don't remember the title, but I will put the link in the description below. I will read a few passages from that because they are very informative about this full moon. So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. As I said, it rules the birth, the rising of the soul into the physical form. So Aries rules the first impulse of life, your body, and in particular the head. So because when you are born, the first thing normally, regularly, the first thing that comes out is the head. So it is the self, the image that we show to the world, how we present ourselves, the persona, the identity, the first impressions that we give to the world and others, and also the attitude, our appearance, and how we impress people. So it's also the self-awareness and your response or reflection from the environment and others. So Chiron in Aries is like having Chiron in the first house, or the house of the body, and all the meanings that I just described makes you probably feel inadequate in all those areas. It often manifests as physical feelings of physical inadequacy. Some people think, for example, people may complain about having curly hair and they want limp hair, for example. So that's a trivial example, but if you understand what I mean, is that with Chiron and Aries, we usually have something in our identity that hurts for whatever reason. It could be our perception. It doesn't mean that it has to be something real and tangible. It may be something internal. Excuse me. It could be something, a perception that we have about ourselves. So one may feel not worthy, for example, not able to fit in, may lack assertiveness, or to compensate, some people may be a lot assertive, too much assertive. And other people may be shy, so may fear self-expression, and maybe too self-conscious, right? And some people may have the tendency to hurt or self-sabotage, so hurt themselves, or you know, act in a way that confirms their perception of self. So this certainly manifests as an unconscious mirror of the other. In this case, the full moon, we are the sun is casting its light on the moon, so which means that there is a mirror effect there. So let me see what else I want to say about Chiron. So oftentimes there is a deep anguish from feeling that one's existence, actions, and desires are not acceptable. And therefore, there is a feeling that there is no point in trying to obtain things that we desire. And one may give up trying, ending up getting what one doesn't want, just to confirm that we do not deserve what we want. So other people may go pleasing everybody left and right except themselves, in an attempt to prove themselves of value. So as you can see in Aries, and with everything that I explained about Mars having the conjunction exact with Eris, can give us this sense of that we are sacrificing too much of ourselves, our identity, our sense of worth for others, right? And there's no doubt about the fact that in general, people are trying to show this need for independence, right? And for asserting themselves as identities, right? People who identified with a certain culture, a certain movement, or a certain something that they feel identified with. So there might be feelings of disempowerment, impotence, frustration, suppressed anger, and even passive aggression could very commonly manifest in this full moon. So extreme cases, the person may become ill, for example, or as I said, the most common thing could be sacrificing too much. So I would like to touch on certain points, basic points of the Chiron myth, because Chiron was half man, you know, from the head to the middle of the trunk was human, and then the bottom part was a horse. So, but he was not a centaur in the classical centaur identity concept. He was a different kind of centaurs, because centaurs are not the whole part, upper part of the body. They are just from the chest up, I think. Anyways, he was not only different in that way, he was also different in the way that he behaved, because he was not savage centaur. He was very civilized. In fact, he was adopted. First of all, the first wound of Chiron was that he was abandoned and rejected by Philyra and his mother and his father Saturn, Kronos. So and Apollo, the sun god, took him under his wing and raised him and educated him. And so at some point in his life, he also got wounded by his best friend, Heracles or Hercules, who accidentally wounded him with an arrow on his one of his legs. So archetypical, there is a conflict in the way one is able to receive acceptance, affection, validation, appreciation, or attention, and even allowance to hold a space and a time to be, to exist. So this is the conflict of Chiron, and having the full moon shedding the light, the emotional light on that woundedness. It is very, it is probably something that is going to hurt. Another thing that we need to consider for this full moon is that the moon is close to the earth, and it's and as it is full, it is more emotional. So depending on the house where you have Aries, this influence the way you function in relationships. Well, for example, in relationships, when one has Chiron in Aries, suppose that Aries is your first house, the partner needs to be aware of your needs for validation, reassurance, and especially the need to be accepted just as you are, with virtues and shortcomings all the same. So there is a tendency for the Chiron and Aries person to try to heal the partner's traits, that he or she feels inadequate on him or herself. The problem is that those feelings of inadequacy, we tend to project them onto the other. And especially in since this is the opposition between the moon and the sun, so this may be one way that the energy manifests. Okay, so that's about the moon, generally speaking. Now I will talk about the sun in Libra. The sun in Libra is ruled by Venus, which is in Leo at a critical degree. It's the 29th degree is the last degree, and it's there is a sense of urgency in our desires. And this sun in Libra is at fall. And what happened, yeah, it is the fall, but the sun is not very comfortable because it is exalted in Aries. So here the sun is not happy, but is ruled by and kind of urging Venus. And another thing that is blending the meaning here is MakeMake. And the interpretation that Henry Seltzer, astrologer, has attempted and suggested in this Time Passages software, he, and I'm quoting, he wrote, delving down into the dark interior of the psyche in order to obtain a more passive feminist form of received wisdom to be merged with the warrior male, the energy of the ego. So this wisdom can only be found in the inner world. And let me explain why he says that. MakeMake was the god of the Rapa Nui civilization, the creation god. of that civilization. And that was the civilization that one of the theories is that they got themselves extinct because they lived in an island, the Easter island, and they cut all the vegetation, all the trees and everything, apparently to use them. I don't know. There's no much information about that civilization. But one of the theories is that they extincted themselves because they overexploited the nature. And this, the myth tells us that there was a quest for a hero, right? Someone who could go find the egg of the birdman and bring it back, would be the candidate to be revered. And once that man came back victorious, he had to go on retreat for 1 year and to learn about himself, and then come out and share with the population, with everybody, and teach what he had learned. So MakeMake suggests the idea that we go in and we explore introspectively ourselves. So that's why he says, Henry Seltzer says, that the wisdom can not only be found in the inner world, a world that is also represented by other astronomically similar bodies at the far edge of the solar system. So these external planets that are far away from the sun would represent the deepest secrets and mysteries of our psyche. So the sun, in combination with this kind of energy, take us to go deeply into analyzing and trying to find this deep fairness. You know, Libra is fairness, is justice, and also in relationships is equal give and take. So it is the search of our desires, but for Libra, you know, in Libra, the desires are refined. They are the search for balance in relationships, fairness, and also the use of negotiation, diplomacy to achieve an accord, as I said, of equal or balance, give and take. So this full moon can really be important, an important completion or awareness in our relationships. So on one side, one may express a deep hurt, or it could be a huge emotional outburst. For example, either on yourself or on the other. So because we can be reflecting each other or projecting onto each other. But at the same time, There is another influence for the sun, which is the inconjunct, exact inconjunct with Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is also ruled here in Taurus by Venus. So again, we're talking about the values that are ruling this relationship. And so the sun in conjunct Uranus is resistance to conformity and fighting for individuality and taking the initiative, being the first and recognized as the first. And there could be excessive need for independence. And also that could be a challenge to overcome the fear of rejection. So there is a need to learn to tolerate differences of opinions and personalities, identities, right? And the tendency to provoke people with eccentricity and impersonality, being aloof and detached, right? So the ego or the person identity could be kind of projecting an ideal freedom, right? And this need for independence and be free. And there is also a tendency to adopt an ideology of individual freedom that is really impractical and unreal, right? Because we cannot live isolated, we cannot live separated from people. We all depend on each other. So, but in this case, some people may feel that they're not responsible for others, and they want to do as they please, right? Because Venus is in Leo. She wants to be seen on stage. Here's me, right? And as I said, Venus is ruling both the Sun and Uranus. So, but this may provoke problems when it's time to being accepted in society, you know, because usually society expects you to be kind of altruistic, not always defending what you want. Some people may attract people who will reject that rebellion and are intolerant of differences and out of the norms social behavior. So the consequences of having these imbalances between the ego and the eccentricity and out of the norm behavior, maybe that the close relationships are challenged because in this case there is a high level of search for independence. People are striving for independence and also showing who they are, what their identity is, especially that is hurting. You know, we've seen in sectors of society around the world how some people have to defend their cultural identity because they have been oppressed, discriminated against, not heard, and not being taken into consideration at the time of making social decisions, or when when the social contract and conventions were made, then some groups of people were left behind or aside or put aside because their identity was not recognized or considered. So there is this explosive sense, this explosive manifestation of this hurt, this identity hurt that it needs to be resolved, right? Remember that this is a full moon culminating the cycle of a new moon in Virgo that we recently had a couple of weeks ago. So at that time, you looked at where that new moon took place in Virgo, right, for you. And now this is a kind of a completion, or you're made aware of what it is that this moon cycle is all about. But it's also a culmination of the new moon in Aries that happened in, I think, mid-late March. It was about the time when the lockdown came in. So you probably remember what was happening at that time for you in relationships, for example, or in the sign of Aries. What was the new beginning in Aries that you had at that time? Where now it could be a culmination of that. And during that, and let me point out something very interesting, that during that new moon in Aries, Mars was conjunct Pluto at 22 degrees in Capricorn. So now Mars is squaring that point. And that 22 degrees conjunction of Mars and Pluto started the Mars-Pluto cycle. It was like, you know, like the moon cycle with the sun. Well, this is the Mars cycle with Pluto. So the first quarter square or waxing square is the time of the crisis in action, how we are taking action to something that happened at the end of March, right? When Mars was conjunct Pluto. So go back, maybe if you have a journal, or if you take notes on a calendar or something, look back at what was happening then for you, and you can see completion or a culmination of something, or you are becoming aware of something related to that theme. But also you are having a point of tension where you are required to take action and do something about it. So that's my report about this full moon in Aries. I hope this interpretation of the symbols may help you understand the process that you're going through. And I really thank you for listening and watching, and I thank you for subscribing and following me. You can also follow me, as I said. You can follow me daily on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and I give you insights on a daily basis about how to deal with the energies of the day. So I hope this is useful, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.